Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and in this video we are going to be going over the fragment event that has just wrapped up for Nari the Lucky. We'll show some of his kit going off in slow motion so you can see exactly how the abilities work. We'll talk about the masteries, the build, how the stats compare to other champions in the game, get you an infographic on the champion so you have all the tools necessary to play with Nari the Lucky efficiently on your account. So let's get into it. Alrighty, now first of all, for all of my champion guides, I try to do one of these infographics to get a kind of basic synopsis of the channel, or of the champion, sorry, into one graphic. And you can find that down below in the pinned comment in the video description, where you get a breakdown of the books. And I actually, this is the first time I ever added a base stats score up there next to the books, so that people can get maybe like a quick general idea of how well that champion would scale with really good gear, because that is determined by the base stats and how high they are from a starting point. And then this is also something I'm working on that is going to more accurately chart champions out so you can compare them against each other and have some of this information at your fingertips. So I'm excited about this. This is kind of a rough draft of what it is, but let's go ahead and flip this over to Nari the Lucky. So boom, right there, and I'll work on getting the infographic added up there on the top right on his page. But what this does is, you can see right here, I've got it sorted by speed. You can also switch it to like defense, and it'll show you like this is where all the champions and their ranges in the game of where they're at. So you can see like right here is going to be where most champions in the game have their defense. Then the higher champions are going to be over here, and the lower champions are going to be over here. Now Nari actually has a really good base speed of like 104, I believe it is. So let's tick this over to speed. And 104 is down over there, kind of in this range. So you can see it's a pretty solid base speed, definitely above average. And it is shown up here towards kind of the top middle, the different stats and how they compare to other champions in the game. So you see he has pretty good HP. The attack does not matter. He's a defense champion, has really good defense, good speed. The crit rate, that's just the base that everybody has. And then kind of the lower versions of crit damage and resistance with a pretty decent base accuracy there of 20, which is kind of rare to get a base accuracy, but he does. So I'm excited about this. I think this is a good little breakdown of the different stats here. But let's transition to talking about his kit and maybe some of the best scenarios to use him in, and then we'll go over the build and the masteries and all that type of stuff so you can play effectively with him. So the A1, Plarium loves this mechanic with some of their St. Patrick's Day fusion fragment events, because obviously St. Patrick's Day, you think of like Lucky, so Lucky is RNG in gaming. They love to have some sort of random buff, stealing, manipulation, RNG type mechanic on their St. Patrick's Day champions. So we've got right here a random buff from the target when you attack them on the A1, and this scales with defense. You can get this booked up to a 75%. Pretty impactful. I do like the A1. It also synergizes with some of the counterattack in his kit, and maybe some of those counterattack masteries where you can kind of reliably steal some random buffs and really get him popping off with lots of buffs going on him. And we've also got the A2. It's going to be an AoE. You can book it to a 3-turn cooldown, and this is a super rare A2 in the game. I do like this part of his kit because he's going to do both decreasing accuracy and resistance. So some of those areas in the game where you want to build some accuracy and resistance on your champions, maybe somewhere like some of those Doom Tower bosses or the Hydra, he's going to be great for that because he's going to make it a lot easier to build your whole team and hit some of those accuracy and resistance thresholds. And then we've got the A3 here. Unfortunately, it doesn't book to a 3-turn cooldown, so his rotation is going to be 3-4 when fully booked instead of 3-3, which is a lot worse. But you do have to be careful with that because this does have a 100% booked up CC. So sometimes when you've got very consistent CC, it will be a 4-turn cooldown when fully booked to try and make it not like too strong. But he's also going to place a counterattack buff on himself for 2 turns, and this also works with defense, and we can obviously take that buff up, like I said, from 75 to 100 with books. So the books are very impactful on this A3 here. We get the 2 cooldowns and the more reliable debuffing. Then we got the passive, and I want to show you a little bit of slow motion footage on this passive here in a little bit. At the start of this champion's turn, transfers a random buff from a random enemy to a random ally. And in my testing, he is not able to place that on himself. He's always going to place it on an ally, and when he is soloing content, this passive will still steal the buff, but it won't place it on himself. The buff will just disappear into the ether and basically be removed. So I can't get him to do that. So when it says to a random ally, it means a random ally besides him, not somebody kind of on his team. Sometimes it's a little bit weird how these abilities are worded. Sometimes like any ally does apply to themselves. To a random ally only means your teammates. It can be a little bit hard to understand exactly how that works, which is why I jumped in and tested it anyway, just to be sure. And then this champion's accuracy is increased by 5 for each buff on each ally, which is going to synergize with the counterattacking, causing the constant A1s to place random buffs on allies. So he'll get a nice little accuracy boost to go ahead and pop this off every turn. And I do love passives that are consistent value every turn. You start thinking of like Doom Priest, most notably as an epic, where you're just getting those constant heals and cleansing every turn with your passive. I love passives like that. They end up really aging well and doing good over the long haul as we get more and more content to raid those passives and stacking them up on a team. You're getting like Teneric, Doom Priest, and lots of those passives that get you value every turn guaranteed. So Joyful Song is definitely a really good ability as well. Then we already kind of touched on the base stats. He's a defense scaling champion, so his HP is actually fine. It's not like, you know, 17,500 or something. It's pretty solid HP. The attack is completely irrelevant. It means nothing. It might as well be 0. And then defense is actually pretty good. It's not like 1,500 something, but it's also not 1,300. So I'm pretty happy with the base stats. Though the base speed is great at 104. Anytime we're over 100, that's pretty good. Typically, your like 110 and above is going to be some of those turn meter boosters and stuff like Lady Kimmy and Arbiter, things like that. So his speed is totally fine, and it is nice that he does get the base accuracy as well. Sometimes you'll see legendaries even that will have a 0 base accuracy. That's always unfortunate when it's a champion that you have to build for accuracy, but they start with 0. So now let's go ahead and go over the Nari, the Lucky that I've got built on my main account, and we'll go over some of the optimal sets, the stats you want to hit, the booking process, and the masteries. So, okay, here is my Nari the Lucky, the first iteration of my build on him. And as far as sets, you can see a lot of this stuff on the infographic, by the way, that I linked down below. I think Relentless is a pretty good build for him because, like I said, he's got that passive that gets you the value every single turn. There's no cooldown on that. So I think Relentless synergizes very well with him, and constantly kind of cycling through the A1s, plus having a rotation of 3-4 is going to help you maybe cycle through those cooldowns a little bit faster. So I do like Relentless on him, and the fact that he has a 104 base speed means we can still get a pretty decent speed on him, even if we do end up skipping a speed set. Now, if he was down at like 92 speed or something, it'd be a little bit more rough to get him built in Relentless and still hit the thresholds that we want to hit. And then you'll also notice on the banner, I am using one of the counterattack sets here, which I think is super cool. The Revenge set works very well on him because he gets a lot of value out of the counterattacks and constantly popping off that A1 to remove buffs from your enemy and also buff your allies. Accuracy banner obviously makes a lot of sense on him because we need to hit a good accuracy with him. And then we're just looking for speed, HP, and defense for the substats there. For your amulet, probably your best one of either HP or defense that is going to have a good blend of some accuracy and res to go with it. And then for the ring, you're just looking for as much defense and HP as you can get. Boots, I think, are generally going to be speed boots, and then what we're trying to get on him in terms of stats is going to be speed, accuracy, and toughness. So anything you get that will help you with that is going to be great. Probably at least one of your pieces here on glove or chest to be defense, because he does have such a good base defense that you want to take advantage of that. So you can see right here, if I have to use a 5-star and a 6-star, I'm going to prioritize the 6-star on defense and the 5-star on HP, so I can really take advantage of that really solid base defense that he has. And the top ones are super simple. Again, we're just looking for speed, accuracy, and toughness. Then as far as the booking process, I think he takes 13 books, which is interesting. You typically lucky number 7, and then 13 is bad luck. So it's a little bit weird that he takes 13 books. I think it's 4 plus 5 is 9. Plus 4 is 13. Yep, okay. And the books are pretty impactful on him. I mean, going from 50 to 75 for buff chance is definitely really good because he does his A1 a lot, especially with the counterattacks. And then obviously getting the cooldown and making everything super consistent. If you're going to use Nari a lot, you get a lot of value out of the books, but it is unfortunate that he takes 13 books and he's not really going to be like a super meta champion. He's not going to be a Duchess or something like that where you just auto spend the books and don't feel bad about it. But the books are impactful if you're in a spot where you're using him pretty often. As far as masteries, there's a few different ways that you can go with this. The defense tree and taking some of these counterattack masteries could be very good with him, obviously, because of that A1 that is going to remove buffs. But I'm probably going to be trying him out in the Hydra, and he actually does do damage every single turn with 2 different AoEs. So in any sort of long sustained battle like that, he's probably going to get a decent amount of value out of the War Master mastery there. So I went with that because I thought it might help me out a little bit more. But I can totally see a case for going the defense and support tree instead of offense and support. But the support one is definitely gonna be a pretty consistently taken tree for him for sure. And it is nice to get both lasting gifts and Master Hexer. I would say Master Hexer a little bit more important because of the decreased accuracy and the decreased resistance, but the lasting gifts is going to make his counterattack maybe a little bit more reliable and up a little bit more permanent. So it's nice to get that as well. And now I want to take you through some of the footage I have here while I was testing him and recording some stuff and playing it back. And I figured why not kind of show you this live on the video so you can see a little bit of behind the curtains on my process. So a lot of times when I do champion guides like this, I'll record myself playing with the champion, doing solo runs, maybe farming campaign, playing in teams, and I'll record the footage. So I'll sit here and test stuff for like 2 or 3 hours. I'll record it all. Then I'll go back, re-watch it, and kind of pick out clips that I think are intriguing or something cool happened. And also that way I can kind of slow things down and watch it frame by frame and really kind of learn how some of these abilities work. And I'll show you some of that here. So that's okay. And I'll walk you through, this isn't very much to watch. It's just kind of seeing him in action, getting a feel for the animations and what goes on. Okay, so right there, that was a turn. Yeah, okay, I remember why I saved this. So his passive is a little bit buggy. So it's supposed to, I can pop this down and give you a refresher course. The passive here is supposed to, at the start of the champion's turn, transfer a random buff. But what I was seeing here is I could not get it to steal the veil, which is something interesting that I just kind of noted while I was testing. So this is definitely a turn. You can see here his turn meter is going to, he takes an extra turn, so he gets a relentless proc is what happened. So showing how good. Okay, so right here his turn meter is going to finish, and he's going to take a turn right there. So his turn meter depleted, but he comes in, he does that. Now you can see the extra turn there in blue text. So he's going to take another turn, but he doesn't steal the buff there on the veil. It stays there. So a little bit interesting. I couldn't get him to take that buff. Now here, you'll get to see how this works. When he gets his turn, now that's a counterattack. You can see his turn meter is still full. So he's not going to take advantage of the passive you see up there that removes a buff that will only apply to his turns, and a counterattack does not count as a turn. So he goes up there. Now he takes a turn, and you can see up in the top left that champion loses the block buffs buff, and it goes over to Battle CORSAIR on my team. And this is the exact frame it happens. Okay, right here, the buff's on the enemy, and then the buff is on my Battle CORSAIR. So that's his passive proccing at the start of his turn, taking a random buff from the enemy and placing it on our side of the map. And I can't get him to place it on himself with the passive specifically. It always seems to place it on an ally from my testing. Now here, I think it happened again right there. Yep, okay, you can see he's going to take the defense buff from the top left again. There is a defense buff at the start of his turn, and boom, it pops over to Battle CORSAIR. That provokes. And boom. Now, what was I wanting to show here? Steals the buff, okay. Oh, I think, oh yeah, this is what I wanted to show here. Okay, so this is what I'm saying when I can't get him to use his passive to place, so his passive will still proc the effect at the start of this champion turn, transfer a random buff, but he will not place it on himself. It just disappears into the ether. So you'll see the continuous heal buff on the right side, and you may be confused what that buff is because it looks a lot different. Just the 15% continuous heal buff icon is so much more common that you're probably used to seeing that one. That's actually the small version, the 7.5% continuous heal. But anyway, he's going to bang right there. That was the frame. You can see that the buff is going to get removed at the start of his turn, and you even see the text right there. It says steal buff, but it doesn't steal the buff. It just disappears into the ether. The continuous heal does not transfer over to him. Now, if I was with an ally or a team, that continuous heal buff that he stole would have gone to an ally, but he will not place it on himself. But I'll go ahead and let the rest of it play out. You can see there's not a whole lot left to go over, but I'll just kind of show you what's going on here. So right there again, this is a good example of him being solo. There's a lot more buffs, but you'll see the same thing happens right here in this frame. So his turn meter is going to fill up. Right there, it fills up. So you can see everyone's turn meter right here is towards the bottom, and his is ahead, and he has the highest speed. So his turn meter is going to fill up super fast. You won't even see it happen. It happens in less than a frame, but right there, his turn meter filled up faster than any of the enemies, so he takes his turn. So right here, he's taking a turn, and at the start of his turn, you can see that buff gets stolen from the second champion from the left, that ally protection buff right here on this frame. It gets stolen, but he will not place it on himself. He would have placed it on an ally. So that was a good little showcase of that one there as well. And that was just some of the interesting footage I saw that I wanted to show you while I was testing him and kind of watching things back that I thought would make sense to include in the video. Now let's go ahead and pull up the tier list and see where Nari grades out compared to some of the other legendaries in the game. We got to scroll down a little bit, unfortunately, and then we will see Nari down here and the overall scores right there. So I'll walk you through this really quickly, and these are also subject to change. So definitely let me know if you think I'm crazy or some of this is wrong. I love that feedback because especially when a champion is new, they are subject to change as I kind of get more testing in and learn more about them. I am more than happy to change ratings and keep this up to date and keep things adjusted. So clan boss, typically you got to build your champions to have the right accuracy. Resistance is not typically as important in the clan boss. He doesn't really break defense or place weaken, anything super important. He's not going to be that great or a huge damage dealer. Really fills no role, unfortunately, except for maybe decreasing the resistance of the clan boss, which would make you maybe be able to skip accuracy and stuff on some of your champions if you really wanted to. So he's not like a 1, but he's definitely not good in the clan boss. Doom Tower, he's actually pretty solid. There's lots of areas where lowering accuracy and resistance will help you in those boss fights. So I could see him making sense there. Pretty normal here. Faction Wars, Arena, maybe like a defensive tag team arena going after somebody you have designed to strip the buffs so we can lower both their accuracy and resistance. If you had like a long-term sustained fight, his constant counterattacks, proc and value, and stealing things from opponents, I could see it being okay. He's not going to be like meta in the arena, though, I don't think. Campaign Farmer, he does have 2 different AoEs, surprisingly. A lot of people don't even kind of think about that, but he's got the 2 different ones here that are AoE, so he's not that bad, but he's not a huge damage dealer, so he won't be a great XP farmer. Hydra, again, he'd be okay. Kind of a similar story there to the Doom Tower, where, you can build certain teams that take advantage of the lower accuracy and resistance and getting that in one roll. Then as far as the dungeons and the potion keeps, really the most notable thing is the magic keep, where he is going to be absolutely god tier, because not only is he a strong affinity, force versus magic, but he's got the A1 with the constant counterattacks, where he will steal some of that shielding that the magic keep boss is doing, and not only steal it, but place it on a random ally. So he's pretty god tier if you're trying to progress in the magic keep for sure. So yeah, unfortunately, when we sort by all of the legendaries in the game, he ends up kind of pretty far down the board here, over here, right there. I could actually point right there. He ends up kind of way down there in like the 6th row when we start comparing to all the legendaries in the game. So let's maybe talk about if I were Plarium, something I would do to maybe show him a little bit of love and maybe bring him back up into tune. So first off, all in all, I love his base stats. I think those are about right. They're pretty solid. I like the kit here on paper. We just need a little bit of something. Like, I would probably start this out at 75 and let you book this to 100 to show the A1 a little bit of love, and that could really be pretty good, especially when you start getting those counterattacks in. And I would maybe add to the RNG element of his design and his kind of St. Patrick's Day luck theme, and I would maybe have a certain chance, whatever ends up being balanced after testing, maybe a certain chance to grant extra turn here on the A3 to give him an opportunity to kind of cycle through and become more like a 3-3 rotation champion versus a 3-4. Because this only books to a 4-turn cooldown, I'd maybe give this like, you know, a 40% chance to grant extra turn after this. That could be pretty crazy. It would give him an opportunity to really cycle through and do some crazy things. You'd have to test what ends up being balanced because you wouldn't want to make him too crazy. But I think if you just made this, because it is random, so why not let it book from 75 to 100? And it's only a single hitter and it doesn't do a lot of damage. I don't think that would be too crazy. And then just giving this a little bit of a chance to grant an extra turn, and that would probably bump him up just a little bit there on the tier list to bring him into a little bit more viability. But worth noting that he probably is like out of all the St. Patrick's Day fusions where you've got like Yoshi and Shamrock and Killian the Lucky, with him having this rare role of lowering both accuracy and resistance at a 100% clip when booked and a 3-turn cooldown, he's probably just barely the best St. Patrick's Day fusion they've ever done. So it's not like a complete disaster. I would just personally like to show him a little bit of love here and there. So alrighty, it's actually been a little while since I've gotten to dive in and do a deep champion guide like this, so that was fun. But I was able to fit this in my content schedule and really do a deep dive on Nari here. So I hope that helped you a little bit if you're looking forward to building him or if you summoned him at some point or something. And if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe on your way out. But as always, have a good rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Peace.